My name is Sister John Karen Frei. Well, Barry University is a very diversified institution, and if you really want to build programs and you want to build opportunities for students, this is the place to be, and I took advantage of that and brought in the podiatry program, the health science programs, the biomedical science program, so that the students had many different. Our future lies in how well we take care of the environment, the ocean, the fresh water, the earth. So we have to take care of it very carefully. We're building for the future, for your children and your grandchildren. If you don't have the earth, you're not going to have very much of a family left. Well, first of all, I know that God is the one who is going to take care of the earth more so than I. He will enable us to learn the best way to take care of it, but we're not going to learn anything that He's not willing to share. What's my life? Being an Adrian Dominican sister. An Adrian Dominican means that I'm in the Dominican order, and I'm in the group that's called Adrian, out of Adrian, Michigan. And that's where our mother house is. And some of the sisters who are leaving now from the mother house are packing up and traveling to go to Adrian. My personal mission is, one, to save my soul. And also, it's very important to me. I entered because I believed very much in what Barry was all about. And that's why I entered the order. I entered, I had taught at Barry for a year. I had been hired and I taught at Barry for a year. And during that first year, I'd always been looking for something in my life, and I just felt that I found it here. Choke up.
It's okay. It's okay.
So I've been most blessed to be able to live the life of a religious. Here at Barry, I have found peace, tranquility, a lot of activity, a lot of hard work, a lot of time-consuming work. But the students were always worth it. There were many, many wonderful students who had many wonderful stories. Alberto Carvajal, you know that name? He's one of my students. And here he is up running the Dade County school system. But we had very high-quality students. And then you have students that are struggling with the language, and they're working so hard. You have to do all you can to help them, but they have to do it on their own. And I've worked personally. I've helped some of the students who were alcoholics, got them into rehab, straightened them out, and they're fine today. But they remember the 12 steps. Those are some of the smaller projects you get involved in. I'm one who, if somebody brings me a problem and was looking for help, I'm going to do whatever I can to help that student. If that student is willing to work as hard as I am on the project for his benefit. I think it's now 48 years that I've been here.
University.
Right. And I worked for Sister Agnes Louise for many years, and she was the chair of the department. We worked well. When I started, when Sister was here, we had about 40 majors, and that number has climbed to several thousand majors in biology and the health science programs. So it was interesting watching them go through, and seeing how successful they have become and how hard they've worked to get into med school. That's heartbreaking to watch a student who's worked for 4 years, has a fine GPA, but didn't do well on the MedCat test and didn't get into med school. And you have to console that student as much as you can, but it's a very painful time. It's a little easier now, but it's a painful time. But a great rejoicing time when the student has been accepted. I came from, I wanted to swim all year long. And I guess it didn't, at the time, I try to think back to what I was thinking. But it didn't matter where I was going to go swimming, just so long as I could swim all year long. And I see this ad about this school that I have never heard of, but it's in Miami, Florida. So I go down and I interview, and I really fell in love with it. I really did. And so I came down to the school, took the job. At that time, the salary was, I believe, $5,100 a year, plus room and board at the villa. So, you know, they weren't paying you very much money at that time. And there were a lot of, not a lot, but probably about 6 of us who lived at the villa, and we kind of hang around together. And after I had been there a few months, and I really knew this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to become a sister, so I told my friends. And I was so having a good time all the time. They said, you'll never make it. You can't keep your mouth shut because there are certain periods of time you must be quiet and reflective. You'll never make it. And I said, I will make it. So, and I did make it, but we had some good times. Okay. Some of the changes I've witnessed are, for example, the tennis court has moved its location 3 separate times. Some of the laboratories have moved their location. It's always trying to find space. One thing you have to figure, we're at a private institution, but the private institution, at least the ones that I'm familiar with, are not well funded, or if they are well funded, you don't see the funds. So you're always scampering for money, trying to find some money to do the project that you're trying to do. So that's something you have to get involved. You have to get involved in trying to bring money in. We brought in the MARC and the MBRS program. I don't know if you are familiar with those 2 programs in the sciences. Millions of dollars have come into those programs. Well, it's for minority students who want to achieve the doctoral degree, not the medical degree, the doctoral degree. So they start research at this institution with the faculty. I'll use the biology faculty because I'm most familiar with them. The biology faculty member will take them into the laboratory during the year to conduct research, and in the summer work very hard to send the student out to a lab somewhere across the country, and the student will be funded for the summer. And that all becomes part of their resume for when they're going to be applying for graduate school. But we've had that program now 25 years. And it's very well known, and our students, among the top students in the country, accepted into programs off campus because they know that the students are well cared for, and they know that the students will receive the kind of education they want the students to receive. So I'm very proud of that effort. That Dr. Flona Redway is running that now. I love plants. And as a matter of fact, what I'm giving to Sister Arnold and to Sister, what's her name? I was blanking on her name. Lorraine. I'm giving little memories of the plants. I am in the process of putting together tiny little seedlings on substrate that they can put in their suitcase to go up to aging. Both of them are very concerned that I'm going to give them big plants, but I grew these little plants about this big, staghorn and orchid. I got 2 for each of them.
For who?
For Sister Lorraine and Sister Arnold. I have 2 of these tiny little plants so that they're going to take with them to Adrian, part of Miami, returning to Adrian, and see if they can grow the plants up there indoors. I should say, going back to the discussion about the 2 little orchids, my goal is to refurbish that botany house. See, Mother Genevieve, who preceded all of us, was growing orchids there. And when she left, it kind of fell flat. So I'm trying to restore it in her name, the orchids there. But there are certain things, little repairs that have to be made at the greenhouse, and I'm going to work very hard this year to get those repairs made. My doctoral is in orchids. My doctoral degree is in orchids. Well, orchids are a beautiful plant, pretty much beauty. They're not that hard to grow, although everybody's so afraid of orchids. If they take care of plants, they'll be all right. I was very fortunate in pursuing my study of orchids. I went on a grant to Africa for 8 weeks to do field work, and that was 8 weeks, and then I went to Ecuador to do more orchid research to combine into the dissertation. But the main work on the orchids was here in Miami. My advisor for the project was out of Ecuador, so he came with a broad background. But so my goal here is to make people familiar with orchids and staghorn ferns. We just did a little project last year, 2 work-study students and I. We put some staghorns directly right into the tree with the hope that the staghorn would stay attached to the substrate. And it did. And it's so that now the staghorn is part of the tree. It's not a parasite or anything like that, but it's just using the tree as a substrate. And so that we're going to be doing that around the campus in different places. I'm just anything that any of us tried, any of the Adrian Dominicans, you're proud of what everybody does. You know, this person has just done this, or this person's just done that. So pride is something we all have in one another's work. So I have to say, anything that I've done that has been successful is just something that it accumulates with what other people have done as well. I've seen the administration change almost totally. I've been here so long that I've seen, I don't know, 3 presidents now. Oh, no, wait, 2 presidents. Sister Linda has been under Sister Jean O'Loughlin. Those were the years with Sister Jean O'Loughlin. I don't think very many of you know her. She was a mover and a shaker, let me tell you. She really got things done. Well, do you remember Elian, what was his last name, the one from Cuba? Elian. She was very much involved in having him stay. I mean, she got involved with the government, trying to get him to stay. She was always at the right place at the right time, and had all kinds of positions of influence in Miami. She is the one who really is our publicity gal. It was a great time. I enjoyed it very much. As I said, my friends thought I wouldn't make it, but God's grace provided the energy to become the sister. We went through extensive training, long training, and great periods of silence where you had a lot of time for reflection, to be reflecting, is this where I should be? Does God want me here? And will He give me the energy to do my work? We still reflect on that now. Every day is a gift from God. It saddens me to see so many of our youth instead of walking forward, they seem to be walking backward. I mean, this is the group that we rely for the future of the country, and they're throwing so much of that future away. It just saddens me. Or they're getting caught up in the drug ethic. And there's nothing positive about that. And until they can walk away from that, there's going to be very much sadness in those families that are caught up in the drug ethic. What I believe saddens me with the youth in our country today is the number of young students who are caught up with alcohol, or they're caught up with solid drugs. It's a sad thing because they're letting their future ebb away from them. Instead of gathering the strength in, they're losing it because they're getting caught, and there's no, I guess, I'm not sure what's happening in the family structure. I mean, I don't have children, so I can't answer that question. But what is happening to the family structure that there's nobody in the family to pull it together and say, hey, wait a minute, you know, what's happening to us? But somebody's got to do that fast. I would say to future students, take advantage, every opportunity, educational opportunity that you can take advantage of, do it. You'll only go through undergraduate life once. You may go on to graduate study, but don't waste your effort on the undergraduate level. There's so many kids that come in and say, oh, I didn't study, I didn't think it was important, I didn't do this. My grade point average is under a 2.0, you know, but that's all right. You know, my father, this, that, or the other will help me. You've got to stand on your 2 feet, and you've got to get that education yourself. You've got to build your own future. But don't throw it away, especially today. Education is so expensive. Families are going bankrupt trying to send their kids off to the top universities in the country. I don't know if that's absolutely necessary, but that's where they want to, you know, place their money. But don't waste any of your time. You don't like a course? Tough. You took that course, now you stay with it. Don't be dropping it because it's hard. You're going to face a lot of hard things. If you can take the adversity now and learn how to handle it, you'll be so much better off later on when more adversity comes your way. Well, I've always been one who has tried to push people forward. And sometimes people don't want to be pushed forward. And as an administrator, I'd want to push them forward. And some people don't want to be pushed forward, which is unfortunate because your future depends on how well you can move forward in whatever your job is. Other adversity, I've tried hard to bring money into the institution. And that's a hard thing. I've brought in several $1 million, but it's a lot of work to do that today. And it's going to be even harder with the government and the problem with the budget. So that's going to be a real issue for someone who has to handle that. I just tried to do a good job. That's the best I can say with what I did. I started out as an assistant instructor. That was about 48 years ago. And my highest rank was dean and associate vice president. And in between there, I went through, the university has an advancement system where you, if you think you're ready to move into the next rank, all the criteria published. And you look at that and you apply to advance to the next rank. So I've done that and advanced to different ranks. And then when I left, when there was this massive reorganization, which is about 3 years ago now, a lot of things changed. And the School of Natural and Health Sciences is no longer a School of Natural and Health Sciences. It's been divvied out and given to different places. So I lost my job. But I didn't lose it to the university. I lost that particular job. And I was able to, the question was asked, you know, well, what would you want to do or whatever? And I said I would like to restore parts of the campus where there's a statue at the grotto. And I always felt that we needed some nice statuary, outdoor statues at the university, because it's a Catholic institution. That's a symbol of our having statues of our Catholicity. And so I had the opportunity to work to develop a statue. And it was fascinating. I really enjoyed that very much. It's a statue that we have, the Blessed Virgin Mary. That statue is very similar to the one that's at our Mother House. It's by the same sculptor. There are a few little changes. which I know about and the sculptor knows about, so that we know that it really is a little bit different. But it's beautiful. Her face, there's a certain way you can look at it, coming around 360 degrees when she's smiling. There's a section of her face that's smiling. It is just magnificent. But you have to take the time to look at it. It's well worth the effort. But it needs some plants. And there's a committee that's supposedly going to be getting the plants, but we really need plants out there, in my humble opinion. Well, hopefully you'll have people who are in charge, who believe in the mission. And if it's run by Catholics, it'll be easier to do that. But if it's not run by Catholics, then you have to convince the people of the importance of the Adrian Dominican mission. You just have to wait and see about that. To maintain the mission at Barry University, I believe that the faculty, the administrators, the staff, everyone associated with the institution believes firmly in the mission. And if they do, and if they're willing to work for the mission, we'll be all right. But if something happens and they no longer are, I can't imagine this, but, and they no longer are interested in the mission, we'll be in trouble. You have, because I've been here so long, I know how many staff have been here and how long they've been here. You have a wonderful staff here, from the secretarial to the janitorial staff. Very interested in keeping this place clean. I do a lot on the weekends at the institution, and there are times that some of the staff come in because they want to make this cleaner than it was, or, I mean, they take a personal interest in their area of the university that they're taking care of. Now, you don't find that in too many places today, this lack of care, but it's real personal care. But you have to talk to them, how's this going or how's that going, and they'll tell you. They're very friendly and very nice people. I mean, how to motivate them to advance? Mm-hmm. Well, they have to, if they have families and they see what the salary range is, they'll be motivated to advance because it's expensive. Life in general is expensive. So that would be a motivator. Their bosses are motivating them, trying to get them to advance, showing them, well, you're eligible now to go from an assistant professor to an associate professor, and these are the requirements that you have to meet, and you need letters of recommendation. I mean, it's all laid out very clear. And if there's some problem, and the faculty member didn't get accepted, goes back to his dean and says, there was some problem, could you tell me what the problem is? But usually I know that any of the people who went under me, who were going up for advancement, knew beforehand what their chances were, because I'd tell them, I'd say, this is a weakness. Now you've got to take care of this weakness if you can. If you can't, you're not going to advance. I mean, if the advancement calls that you publish a paper, one paper a semester or 2 papers a year, well, do it. Don't come back crying and say, oh, I didn't advance. You didn't satisfy the requirement. Well, first of all, I think it's important when you're hiring people is hire people that you've seen they have some kind of a history where they're motivated to advance. You don't want to hire, it's important when you're hiring people, you don't want to hire people who have absolutely they're just coming here to put in their, stay for the time that's necessary for the day and then leave. They're not invested. They must become invested in an institution or in a program. But if they're not invested, they're not going to advance. It does no good for your students if your faculty aren't advancing. And if the faculty is not academically interested, that students are the ones not benefiting in that situation. As well as the family is not benefiting from the family household. But you've got to get the best education, and you need faculty who are motivated to give you that. When the faculty member says, oh, our classes, and I'm not saying there are many people who do this, our class meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 3 o'clock. However, Friday is the end of the week. We won't have class on Fridays. And all the kids are saying, oh, hooray, wonderful. That's a tremendous waste of 3 hours a week learning opportunity for you. 1 hour a week learning opportunity. You shouldn't be asking the faculty member to let you out early. You should be asking for more work so you can get ahead. Very competitive today. You got to get with it. Very important network. Very important network. Once again here, it's very important to get people who are self-motivated, also who get along with one another. As you talk about what goes on behind the closed doors, if you have a staff of 7 or 8 people and half of them don't get along with one another, they're not going to be advancing that unit in the institution. 9/11 brought people together. Let's see, I'm trying to think of what other things have brought people together. In the environment or within the institution?
Within the institution.
Okay, I think when Dr. J. Patrick Lee, who had been our provost, died, there was a great need for a strong replacement, and there was a big search that went on, and we got a good replacement, Dr. Peterson. But that was a tragedy. In tragedy time, people generally, hopefully, pull together. Instead of pulling apart, they tend to pull together. And when they pull together, you can accomplish a tremendous amount of things. Boy, that's a toughie. I'm one who tried to take the best out of my students and advance it. That student wants to drag the garbage along and say, no, you leave the garbage and you take the best within yourself and you go forward to push. I'm a pusher of people. I know several of my faculty since I've left said to me, when you were the dean, we always knew where we stood. You always told us the truth and told us exactly where we stood with you or how things were. And I appreciate that. And so that's a legacy, but that's something I'm happy to hear because I did try to push them forward. So that's how I see my legacy. I think that there are certain events at the campus, Arbor Day and Founders Week, that are opportunities for the campus to pull together and to pull together and to think about what makes Barry Barry. What are we looking for in our students, and how can we better develop them through opportunities in Founders Week or other opportunities at the campus. Anything that can advance our students forward and opportunities that bring them together. I think they enjoy being brought together as a group. And the dance group and the dance concert competition, it's a lot of fun. I can't think of any one thing. I think anybody's success of the students that I've taught, that's just a wonderful thing to see their success, especially when they leave here. They're successful here and then they go elsewhere and they're successful with their life, or they come back and they visit. That's part of the history that I'm associated with, and I'm going to end that on a positive note.
That's great. I think we're good. That's it.